Okay, today, painful but incredible book, Wild Swans, which you already knew because that was on the title of the post, but that was just for dramatic emphasis. Anyway, this was by Jung Chang, and it's a true story of her childhood growing up in communist China under Mao. So just by that information, we know that it's going to be painful to read. I was introduced to this a long time ago, kind of when I began my journey of near the beginning of kind of lifelong learning as an adult. I don't know, probably 10 or 12 years ago now. And it was one of the first ones that I read that introduced me to kind of world history in a new way. I don't know, I kind of don't know how to describe it, but it had a huge impact on me. Because there were so many things that I read in this book that I didn't know before then, and I'm sitting there thinking, how did I get through 30 years on this planet and not know this stuff, you know? And how could this have been happening, you know, in the same world in which I was living? And I don't know, it's just those kinds of thoughts. I'll never forget, because the first time I read it, I got it from the library, and I didn't have very good marking skills and that kind of thing, so I wasn't marking, I was reading from the library, and I was trying to read it in the bathtub and I dropped it. So it was kind of tragical, because then I had to replace it, and the library replacement fees were really exorbitant, and then I wanted to own it, so then I had to buy it again. So I had to make a lot of investments in order to own this book. But now I do, and it's really great because here's another thing about it. It's got all these pictures in the middle, like several pages of pictures of her family that really brings it to life. So here's how it starts out. It's called Wild Swans. It's about her and her mother and her grandmother, and it starts with her grandmother. It says 3 Daughters of China on the top. And so it's giving you this outline of going from imperialism to communism, and the shift in the way that the people were thinking, and kind of helps you understand her dad was a huge follower of communism, and why he was a follower of communism, and what there was in it to believe in, and what it was doing for their country. And it's really, for understanding communism and worldviews, it's almost invaluable, because, you know, Red Scarf Girl is a good one for when they're young and just saying, holy cow, this kind of stuff went on. But this is more, it's fat, you know, it's like, I don't know, 500 pages. So it may take you a little while, you may need to spend a couple months on it, but it's going to be well worth your time, because it's going to give you a very broad historical overview of 50 to 60 years of Chinese history. By the way, just as a side note, there's the teaching company post on your resources on the resources tab. Highly recommend that you buy their Chinese history set. Now, I got it when it was a set, and one was kind of the older history, and then one was the newer history. Super, super awesome. I mean, we could put together a whole book group, 6-month book group program with the teaching company and a handful of books. That would really be great. I could give you some original writings of some of the people that are recommended and stuff, and maybe I'll do that, because that would be super fun. But anyway, so this starts out talking about her grandma, and you know what the first chapter is called? Concubine to a Warlord General. So that's 1909 to 1933. So that's the kind of painful beginning to this book that you're going to get. But as far as I know, it's all documented and true. What she's not lying. She actually escaped and wrote. She went to England, I think, and then she wrote. She's like, no, she went to school. She was able to get out and go to school. That's right, in Peking, September 78, just before leaving China for Britain. And it's got. And then she wrote down, here's the story, here's what happened. Her grandmother's account, her mother's account, and her account. And it's just, you know, like some of the first things, I'll never forget my emotional reaction. You know, there's a few books and a few moments. I had a moment like this in Left to Tell. I had a moment like this in 1984. The first part of the book, when it talks about, the first part of the book talks about the foot binding. I had no idea. I had no idea that went on. And lots of painful things go on with lots of people in history, you know, but that was just like one that was, you know, they bound the women's feet so that they would stay small, and they basically had to waddle around and be in pain perpetually all of their lives because it was attractive to men. And it made them walk a certain way, and oh, just the whole thing, the way she describes it was just so emotionally intense for me. And just so sad. But so valuable to read all this and to understand it for ourselves and to say, okay, what do we need to do to avoid this kind of thing happening in our place and in our part of the world? Anyway, her mother is married off as a concubine to this warlord, and she has to live alone, and he takes care of her, and he just comes and visits her every once in a while. It's just so sad. There are good moments, happy moments in it, but overall it's a book that shows you a completely other world. And you live in that world for a while. Into Thin Air kind of had that same impact on me. Like, I felt like I was living in this other world for a while. And so different from anything I've ever experienced or done. I mean, I lived in Europe and stuff. It's just, anyway. So I really feel like it's invaluable to an understanding of government and economics, world history, and human nature. You know, why can something that seems now to be so clearly distorted have taken such a strong hold among these people? And it's very personal for her because her dad fought for communism and was a big part of the party, and then the party betrayed him. And like, how does that happen, you know? And so it's going to open your eyes to a lot of things. And I'm going to say 16 and older, because there's stuff in here that's painful and that's adult. There's not anything inappropriate at all. It's not, you know, like a graphic romance novel or anything inappropriate like that. It's just that it's painful to read about other people in pain, but it will change you. Like, there's some times when we need to experience something through someone else, because then we'll never be the same. It deepens you, right? Like, it makes you more than you are. It creates greater empathy and understanding. It's so easy for us to be bigoted and racist. Why? Because we don't understand. I'll give you a quick example. I had a lecture where I spoke for about 45 to 60 seconds about Muhammad, and I said some things about him that I felt were good things that he did, and I had groups of individuals who wouldn't have anything to do with the material simply because of that. That's not who we want to be. We don't want to be the bigoted, racist people that can't see anything good in someone that obviously did some good things in his life. So that's what we want to see here. We want to see the good in the Chinese people and the reasons why they were justified in accepting communism for a while, and the unfortunate tragedies that happened in their nation because of that, and the way in which we're like them, the things that we do that are like, you know, her and her family, and the times when we accept things on faith and then they turn out to be not so great, and what we can do about it. But you're going to learn a lot about human nature, and a lot about China, and a lot about family, and a lot about communism, and a lot about government, and a lot about what makes an economy run and what destroys it. So that's Wild Swans. I wish I could tell you more details, but I don't want to ruin a lot of the story for you. And if you know a lot about Chinese history, it is Chinese history. There's romance, and there's tragedy, and there's family breakup, and there's just about everything you can imagine as far as just drama. But anyway, it had a big impact on me, and I really recommend people read it. And it is one of those books that, one of my top 100, which is turning into 125 or more, but we're trying to keep it down. But anyway, the point is, one of those books I'm going to have my children read, that I want them to read, one of those top 100. So anyway, Wild Swans, gear up for it, make the most of it, really dig in, really mark, really ask questions, and you know what? Discuss it. And maybe your book group needs to do it in 2 months, which would be great. 250 pages a month, that's okay. You can do that, right? 10 pages a day, you can handle that. So you could do it in 2 months and have a great discussion on all of that and really learn to understand other people and other cultures. See you next time.